Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Maggie.
I'm Mike.
And we're Friends on Fire.
And we are on a mission to get friends to talk about money.
Okay, so hey Mike, it's Saturday night. How's it going?
It's going really well, I guess, all things considered. This is becoming kind of a Saturday night ritual for us.
Recording podcasts, it's exciting. My husband loved it.
Yeah, this is the most exciting thing we have going on in our lives right now.
Yeah. Okay, so I thought we could start and read a quick comment that somebody left us after our groceries episode.
I love comments.
It was kind of funny, actually. Or just very, honest and transparent. Okay, so this person said, not gonna lie, your grocery episode beat me down. I shop at Aldi for 75% of groceries and am obsessive about all the things you mentioned in your episode. But we eat meat and lots of it. My husband is a meat snob, boar's head and prime steak only, and we drink wine. I have 3 teenagers and we are in your $1,500 per month category and eating out once per week on average. Ugh, this is depressing. Looks like I have some things to assess. I think we can do better about eating through the freezer before buying more, so I will start there.
Wow. Well, it kind of reinforces one of the things we talked about on that episode, that eating meat, and dairy for that matter, super expensive. Those things are not cheap.
Yeah. I'm not sure that dairy is any less expensive than non-dairy items, because a lot of non-dairy items are actually pretty expensive. But I agree. Not eating meat probably does save us a lot of money.
Well, cheese and milk are expensive, and if you don't eat those things, then you're finding a cheaper alternative.
My point is, we eat a lot of non-dairy milk, like nut milks, and sometimes we'll buy some fancy vegan cheeses, and they're way more expensive than regular cheese.
Oh, well, if you're going to buy your bougie vegan cheeses, then that's a different conversation.
Gets pricey, so. Yeah, it's funny, I've actually gotten a number of comments about our grocery episode asking if our budgets included alcohol because they were shocked and said someone else actually said, she was like, I spend that much on wine alone every month. So
wow,
that does include alcohol for both of us. But I will say we both don't drink that. We both drink, but we don't drink that much.
Right. Until we have been quarantined and I've been drinking a lot.
There's some really funny TikTok videos of this guy that's just walking through his neighborhood. And he's looking at everyone's recycling containers, and every house after house after house is just full of wine and beer bottles. And he just keeps sort of joking. He's like, what is everyone doing during the quarantine that there's just this much alcohol at everybody's house on recycling day?
Yeah, we've been drinking a lot of $3 Aldi wine, which tastes the same as any other wine to us. Oh,
I was going to say to y'all, but many people would disagree with that statement. Not
anyway.
Me. I'm a beer drinker. Okay, so this episode has nothing to do with alcohol. We should probably move on.
Yes. Okay, so we did a minimalism episode a little while ago, and it was the highlight of your podcasting career.
It was the highlight of my podcasting career, which is only 4 months old, to be clear.
And now we're doing another one.
It was our most popular episode so far. I mean, the numbers don't lie. Data speaks for itself, Mike.
Are you telling me that we need to transition to a minimalist podcast instead of this fire thing?
We might. People like talking about minimalism.
All right. Well, in that case, you can become the minimalist expert and I'll become your quirky sidekick.
Awesome. Because the minimalism episode was so popular, and just anyways, because we wanted to do a follow-up to it, we talked about the importance of minimalism and money and what the connection is between the two of them. But we really just talked about the concept and why it matters and the connections. And we wanted to focus this episode as a bit of a follow-up episode. We want to give you a roadmap and some tips for how to tackle decluttering and really either start your minimalism journey or continue and kind of supercharge and move it forward.
And because this is Maggie's area of expertise, I'm going to try to drop in a few little financial tie-ins, but this is primarily going to be Maggie's show.
Yeah, I feel like you have a lot to say on this topic too.
Yeah, but you're the expert on it.
I want to give a really quick caveat, and I want to first reference this article that is titled, "A Trauma Psychologist Weighs In on the Risk of Motivational Pressure During the Quarantine." I think it's worth noting this because we want to talk about something that we're hoping people might feel a little bit inspired and motivated to do right now during this quarantine, which is around decluttering. But at the same time, we really want to caveat with the idea that we're not trying to add additional pressure and expectations to anyone right now during a time that is already stressful. Perhaps you are trying to work remote, deal with your kids, deal with a lot of anxiety of what's happening in the world. You might be out of work, and that's adding a ton of stress and anxiety. And so we believe in all of the things that we're talking about here today, but we also are not trying to add more anxiety to your life. So if this isn't the right time for you, it's okay. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. I just thought that was an important caveat because I read that article and I know there's been a lot of different thoughts on social media over the past couple weeks on the amount of pressure and expectations people are putting on themselves to like change their lives during this quarantine. And there's a lot of people that are just trying to like function day to day right now, Mike.
Yeah, I agree.
And then there's people like you who are making homemade marshmallows.
Yeah, I'm really kind of thriving in this environment. But that being said, and it's an important caveat, there is a certain lack of structure that people have in their lives, and challenging yourself and doing something different can provide some meaning and some value during times like this. So if you are overwhelmed, I think Maggie's point is be thoughtful about which challenges you undertake, but do try to do something different. Take advantage of this time to find some new improvements you can make in your life.
That is a really great point, Mike. I don't know if you could see me like thumbs upping to you on the camera. Like, awesome point. Glad you added it.
All right, now you can take it away for the next 20 minutes.
Okay, so we are going to cover 3 core strategies. The first one are some decluttering tips, so a plan, a roadmap of sorts to help you minimize what you already have. The second one are some tips and strategies for limiting the new things you bring into your life from here. And then the third strategy is talking through some digital decluttering thoughts. So let's jump in to strategy 1, which is a plan for minimizing what you already have. First tip is finding some inspiration. One place I like to go for inspiration are books or podcasts or sometimes movies or documentaries. There are a ton of awesome books and podcasts and documentaries on this topic that can really serve as some great inspiration. And so a few of our quick thoughts, and then we'll put these in the show notes also, are Marie Kondo's books, The Magical Art of Tidying Up, which is very famous. The Minimalists have written a lot of great books. We recently posted some of them on our social channels. The Minimalists have put out a documentary that's been on Netflix for a few years. It's called Minimalism. And it's amazing. If you have Netflix, it's essentially already paid for. You should go watch it. Joshua Becker has written a lot of books on this, and he blogs at Becoming Minimalist, so you can read his blog. You can read some of the books he's written. Courtney Carver also blogs at Be More With Less and has something called Project 333, which is a minimalist clothing challenge. She's also recently written a book. Another area that I think is incredibly helpful are YouTube videos. So there are a ton of YouTube videos, and you can just Google decluttering. You can Google cleaning your kid's room, cleaning out a kid's room, etc. And you will find so many videos of different people that are videotaping and kind of documenting the process of decluttering like a room or their house or different things. It is like a black hole you can go down of so many videos on YouTube. Have you ever watched any of these videos, Mike?
I've watched a couple of them. They're a little weird. They're not for me.
I really enjoy them.
But I will say that the initial list you gave of resources is also how I got into minimalism. So I got into it in 2018, and I knew that it bothered me, but I couldn't find out why, and I couldn't find like a good structure or motivation by which to approach it.
What bothered you? You mean like stuff?
Just like the clutter. Like I felt like I had too much stuff, and I was constantly trying to like solve it, but I didn't really know what the problem was. And so for people who are new to this or may feel similar, the way that I approached it was I first read Marie Kondo's book, The Magical Art of Tidying Up. Is that what it's called?
The Magical Art of Tidying Up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. It changed the way that I look at tidying up. And then the next thing I did was I watched the Minimalist documentary on Netflix. And those two things kind of put structure around the problem for me, but also created a lot of motivation because it showed me like what benefits exist by undertaking this minimalist lifestyle and approach.
Yeah, it was really hard for me to listen to what you were just saying because at the beginning you said something about how you had a problem and were trying to solve it. And I couldn't stop thinking of Vanilla Ice. You got a problem? Yo, I'll solve it. You don't remember that?
I remember it. I don't want you to get into this thing where you start playing the song and then it gets flagged on YouTube for copyright violations. So we really just need to move on.
Okay, got it. So shout out to Vanilla Ice. So first tip is read, discover, engage with inspiring books, blogs, podcasts, and or documentaries. They can really help. And YouTube. Second point here is really understanding your why, like understanding what motivates you. And like Mike was even just talking about, just having a reason that you want to go about this process and that you want to declutter and minimize really helps you to make progress and to stick with this. And then also recognizing and appreciating the benefits. And so we talked about a lot of the benefits on our episode about a week ago titled Minimalism and Money. I think that was number 28. And we talk about the money is one of the big benefits, right? And so your why may not be money, but you likely have a why. For me, my why was similar to yours, Mike, in the sense that I was very mentally overwhelmed and overstimulated by all of the physical things around me. And I just realized that they didn't create happiness. And the faster I realized that, the faster I was able to stop bringing new things into my life and more easily get rid of things.
But if your why is money, decluttering your life can create a little bit of return for you. So really quickly, you can make donations, which reduce your taxable income. You can sell things on eBay, Craigslist, or community Facebook exchange very easily. Yep.
I've actually sold a lot of clothes over the past few years on Poshmark, and guess how much money I've made on Poshmark? I looked up my total this morning.
I don't know what Poshmark is or what clothes you would sell. Are these like Patagonia clothes? If so, maybe like $10,000?
That's funny. Now my number's going to seem so low. Poshmark is a app and a site, kind of like eBay, but it's mainly for clothing. And it's a little bit of a funky platform in the sense that it's kind of got a social element to it, and you have to like keep resharing your items. It's a little bit wonky, but I tried it a few years ago, and I've sold like old work clothes, like business clothing, so like stuff from Banana Republic, like J. Crew. They're good with like name brands. I have sold a lot of Patagonia items there, so things that didn't fit me anymore, things that I just didn't wear anymore. A lot of brands from REI sell really well on there. So like outdoors brands like Marmot, Patagonia, stuff like that. I've sold shoes. I've sold new shoes and used shoes. It's shocking what people will buy. Like Tom's. I've sold kids stuff. I sold a lot of my stuff. I've sold some of my husband's like old dress shirts and things.
I'm sorry. I didn't ask for your life story about Poshmark. Can we just move
anyways,
on? How much did you make on this?
I've made $1,526, and that's in profit.
That's pretty good.
Fees. Yeah,
oh, really? Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's actually money that went into my checking account. And at any point, any balance you have, you can move into your checking account.
Nice.
So that's a great thing also.
And a few other things, if you're not interested in selling items, if it's broken, try filing a warranty claim. I think you'd be surprised how far you can get with retailers and manufacturers if you just tell them something's broken. They generally want to help you out. And if it's unused, try returning it to the store. Again, retailers want to help you out in general, and you can probably get a refund for that item that's been sitting there for 3 years.
So another tip is once you've recognized your why and your motivation, and you've been able to identify that to motivate you, you really need to start and focus on yourself first. So if you spend too much energy trying to get your spouse or your kids on board, and this has to be something that you all do together as a family, and you're putting so much energy into that, it can really turn those people off in your life. And there's just a lot of benefit to starting with yourself first and letting them see the value. And look, if your partner or spouse is like gung-ho about this and wants to do it with you, by all means, go in at it, start doing this with them together. But if they're in any way hesitant and you're having to kind of drag them along, don't waste your energy dragging them along. Focus on yourself first. Manage and control the things that you have decision rights over and that are your own personal objects, and let them see the benefits. And I hear so many stories about people that take that approach, and then they see their partner, spouse, kids, etc., start to see the benefits and understand what's happening. and then they want to do it, and you're not trying to, drag them along kicking and screaming. Another tip is to start with some of the, quote, easier categories and areas of your home first. And just as an example, I think the idea is like, don't start with your sentimental stuff first, because that has a lot of emotions tied to it and can be, a very high energy area to have to clean out, versus focusing on like your living room or your kitchen or some areas that are just lower emotion and are easier to start with. Can definitely help you to build up some momentum.
I think one of the easiest areas is kind of household paperwork. And this is one of the things that you recommended, Maggie, and was life-changing, was utilizing a scanner and Evernote. So I had an entire filing cabinet full of paperwork that I've been holding on to, and maybe referenced it, maybe didn't, but you recommended I start scanning it and using Evernote to file it away, and it scans as a readable PDF so you can search for these documents. And so I scanned thousands and thousands of pages and have them all organized. They're in the cloud, and I got rid of all of this paper. I got rid of the filing cabinet. It cleaned out my office. I mean, it was life-changing, and there was no sentimental attachment to any of it, so it was like quite easy to do.
It's beautiful to hear you talk about that, Mike. I'm a huge fan of scanning things in. I pretty quickly, I have a pile, like when mail comes in and there's documents I need to keep, I scan them within a few weeks of them coming into my house, and then I immediately shred them and get rid of them. And it really cuts down on the amount of paperwork. And I know people say to keep paperwork for a certain period of time, but you do not need originals. And it's things like, the deed to your house, or, an original copy of your will or something like that. 99% of paperwork, even stuff that people tell you need to keep originals of, you do not need originals of. You just need to be able to reference the document digitally, which you would be able to do when you scan it.
And it's actually easier to search it digitally, because you just type in the text you're looking for.
Yeah, it's much easier to find. And even if you don't want to mess around with Evernote, you can just take pictures of things, right? There's other free scanning apps that organize things, and you can organize it on Google Drive or somewhere else if you don't want to pay for the paid version of Evernote. There is also a free version. But the other thing that I think is really helpful and has helped me to reduce a lot of things over the years is you can also take pictures of items. And so I take pictures of all my kids' artwork. And I keep that. I have a file in Evernote that's kids' artwork, and I'll kind of organize it by like chunks of their life, like spans of years. And then also I'll take pictures of sentimental items. So there's a lot of sentimental items that I want to keep, but there's some that are kind of borderline. And my solution is I take a really nice photo of that. I store it in Evernote, but you could store it somewhere else. And I then have a photo of that thing, and I always remember it. And every now and then I'll be like texting with friends about some like high school or college memory. And I can pull up that photo and like text it to them. And it's so cool because I have a photo on hand of that item. And I no longer have the physical item, which is fine. Okay, a couple other points in terms of kind of decluttering tips. Figure out what system works for you. So there's a lot of different systems out there. Again, like if you read Marie Kondo's book, she's got a really specific system of which rooms you start in first and which objects you deal with first. If you read some of Joshua Becker's stuff, he's got a really, specific guidance on kind of where to begin. Same thing with Courtney Carver and Project 333. And if you do some of the kind of challenges around clothing, the minimalists have this thing called a minimalist 30-day challenge, which is really fun. And it could help motivate you. On day 1, you get rid of 1 item. On day 2, you get rid of 2 items. Day 3, 3 items, and so on. And by the end of the month, you've got days where you've got to get rid of 27 items in one day, 28 items the next day, 29 items the next day, and so on. And it gets really hard by the end of the month and helps you to build up the muscle slowly. So it's a really fun game, and you can challenge a friend to do that with you, and you can take pictures of your stuff, and it can really kind of keep you encouraged. But I think the idea is figure out what works for you and what will motivate you, and then do it. Don't feel like there's any one way or any one system that you have to follow to start getting rid of things, but pick something and start doing it now. The last tip in this section is one that actually ties into money, which is what we spend a lot of time talking about. Decluttering and getting organized does not need to cost you money. A lot of people think like, oh, I'm going to do this big decluttering project. Well, I'm going to start by going to the Container Store and dropping $200 on a bunch of totes and containers and storage items and organization items. There are tons of apps, supplies, stores like the Container Store that will sell you things and convince you that you need to pay them a lot of money to help you declutter. You don't need any of this stuff to declutter. You just need yourself and your mind and a motivated mindset to start doing this. And the whole idea of decluttering is so you have less stuff to then need to organize. So you're not going to need all of those organizational tools and supplies. But often I find, people feel like they need to go buy all this crap to start the process of decluttering. And I would challenge yourself against that. This should be a free activity. And look, if you come in a few months later and you've done this massive decluttering and kind of minimizing effort around your house, and as a result, you realize a few organizational tools that you then need, like, go for it. You've earned it at that point. But don't start the process with spending money, because you should not need to spend money to declutter your house.
And every time I go through a decluttering exercise in part of my house, I find that I am able to eliminate storage and get rid of it out of the house versus getting more. If you're buying more storage, you're really just organizing your stuff. If you are decluttering, you can get rid of organizational tools.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. There's a big difference between organizing and decluttering. We're encouraging people to declutter, and then you can organize once you finish decluttering.
Now, moving on to the second part of this strategy, this is where the money saving really comes into play, and this is limiting the new stuff you bring into your life.
Yeah, so this is the idea that once you've done this big decluttering effort and you've sort of stopped the historical mess or limited and kind of tamed the historical mess, you've now got to work on today and forward and ensure that you don't just amass a ton more crap that just, negated all of the decluttering that you just did. This is the area, Mike, that I will actually admit I've done a lot in strategy 1, which is decluttering, but I've been the best at strategy 2, which is I've put more energy into limiting the new stuff that comes in. I've certainly done a lot of decluttering, but I have more room to go there. I'm really good about limiting the new stuff I bring in, and that is what has really helped me financially over the years also.
And on a non-financial point, one of the things that really impressed me about Maggie was last December, I brought you a Christmas present with a purple bow on it because it's your favorite color. And then a week later, I got a Christmas present with the same bow on it. So you had taken it and then given it back to me because you didn't even want to keep it in your house until next December.
I reuse all wrapping. I don't ever buy wrapping paper or products or anything. I reuse bags and stuff.
But it was like within 2 days. It was impressive.
I typically try not to give the same wrapping materials back to someone who gave it to me.
Well, you did.
I recycle amongst people, so you never really know. But for you, I knew you might appreciate receiving the same bow back.
Well, mission accomplished.
Part of the gift. Also, you should clarify what that bow was on top of. It was a jar full of homemade vegan cheese sauce that I make.
Oh, so good.
Best gift ever.
Anyway, we're getting off topic.
Okay. So one of the best tips that can be, I think, the most helpful and powerful in terms of limiting new stuff that you bring into your life, aside from recognizing the financial benefit, which Mike just talked about, is do not buy anything that you think that you need or want that day. So if you're having a, craving or a thought for something, you're like, oh, I need to go buy this, XYZ, whatever it is, make yourself wait at least a week, as long as like 30 to 60 days if it's a more expensive item. And then once you've gotten past that waiting period, decide if that urge is still as strong. I do this, and oftentimes I realize that I don't even remember the thing anymore, right? Sometimes I'll like put the thing in my Amazon shopping cart, and I'll come back in for something that I need, like I'm buying vitamins or something, and I'll see something else in my cart, and then I'm like, oh, I forgot that I even ever considered buying that product. I definitely don't need that and or really want it anymore. So the idea of kind of putting a waiting period in place can really help you sit with the desire of why you think you want that thing, right? And really, question why you feel like you need that in your life. Because I think waiting can really help. I know a lot of people that also put shopping bans in place. So like I did a whole year of not being able to buy any professional clothing for work. And it was pretty easy actually. And I really enjoyed it. And if I hadn't put that sort of mental ban in place, right? It was a self-imposed ban. If I hadn't put it in place, I probably would have just continued my normal habits, which were every now and then I would go to, a couple of stores where I liked buying clothing, and I would see something I liked and think, well, I can afford that. I'm going to buy it. But just putting a ban to say I'm not going to buy any professional clothing for a whole year, it worked for that year. And then after that, it made me want to buy less because I realized how little I actually need and how I could get by with what I had. And I would just every now and then kind of fill a gap in my wardrobe that or something that I might need to kind of replace or upgrade.
The next thing that you should consider doing is stop going to Target or to wherever you do your normal day-to-day shopping for stuff. These retailers are set up to make you buy extra things that you had no intention or need to buy in the first place. And so if you can just stop going to a physical location, which by the way, is super easy right now.
Yes.
But if you can not visit them, you will save money on all your purchases because you were only buying the things that you are mindful of that you had a plan to go buy in the first place.
Everybody I know tells stories where they're like, I walked into Target to buy some deodorant and I left with $200 in stuff.
It happens to everybody, to the best of us.
And one of the things that I like, because there's a lot of things like toiletries, etc., that I need, like cleaning supplies that I need from Target and I don't want to get somewhere else. But I, in the past year or so, have really quit going to Target. I maybe go like once every few months. And when I need something, I will order it from Target's app and they have free 2-day shipping. They may not during the quarantine, but they normally have free 2-day shipping. And it's great because I can just go get the 2 things I need, buy on the app. It shows up to my house within 2 or 3 days. And then I've also saved a ton of money because I've not had to walk into Target and be tempted by all of the random things. And I've not had to take my kids to Target who are constantly asking me for things when we walk into Target. I read this really cool thing on Instagram. I posted it on our story, Mike. I don't know if you saw it. But it was someone who was sharing an Amazon tip, and she was basically saying she has a rule that if there's anything she wants from Amazon, she will put it in her cart, and then once a month she will place an order. And so she's limited herself to 1 order per month from Amazon, basically.
I like that.
And she finds that often by the end of the month, she goes through her cart, and just like I was saying earlier, half the thing, she's like, I don't even need that anymore. I don't know why I thought I wanted it at the time, but I no longer have a desire for it. And so there's just something about putting some time between a want or a desire that you think you have and the actual purchase decision. And I'm telling you, 75% of the things will go away. You'll decide you'll realize that you no longer desire them the way you thought you did when you first had the idea pop into your head.
And after you've gone through all of these exercises and challenges, if you decide you still need to buy something, you should go into it with the mindset that if you are buying one thing, you are taking one thing out of your house. And it's a good way to just plan ahead saying, I know I want to buy a new jacket. Here is the jacket I'm going to give away to make room for it.
Yeah, that's like the 1 in, 1 out rule,
Mm-hmm.
I make my kids do that. So if they want something new, I'm like, okay, fine, but you have to get rid of something and donate something to someone else if you want to bring this new item in. It works. And we could do a whole episode on kids and decluttering because there's so many different ideas and strategies. I've actually gotten my kids into watching decluttering videos of other kids cleaning out their rooms and spaces.
That does sound like fun. However, let me remind you, this is a financial independence podcast, not your minimalist podcast.
Okay, well, we'll see which topic gets more listens, Mike.
All right, just don't replace me as the co-host.
Okay, I won't. So I hope some of those tips have been helpful to help you to limit the new stuff you bring into your life. Because again, there's a lot of things you can do to get rid of all the things you already own, but it's a short-lived effort if you're going to keep buying new things. And as Mike started out saying during this topic, if you can get good at limiting the new stuff you bring into your life, that is one of the things that can have a huge positive impact on your financial health and really cut down on your expenses by limiting the new things you bring into life. Because there's so many things people spend money on that they do not need. They are just things that they want, and they don't really even want it. They just think they want it.
The third strategy is around digital decluttering, because especially now, we are in front of our computers if you're working from home, in front of our computers all day long. And it has the same psychological impact as a cluttered house. If you have a cluttered digital life, you have the same negative impacts on your life. So there's a number of things that you can do to help yourself in this area.
There's a ton of things from a digital decluttering standpoint that you could get into around how your files are organized, and just in the same way that you can have stress and anxiety from seeing all the physical objects in your home and just lying around and disorganized, you can have the same response to like your computer desktop. Like when I have a ton of files that are saved on my desktop and not organized, and when I can't find things, it can get really stressful. So digital decluttering is an important topic, and we wanted to touch upon it briefly. We're not going to get into a lot of detail on it. Again, we could do a whole future topic just on digital decluttering. But the one piece of digital decluttering that we did want to focus on that is more relevant for this audience and this podcast is just around financial decluttering. And Mike, like, share some of your thoughts on that, because I know it's something that we've talked about a lot.
This is kind of a strange dynamic, because in order to take advantage of a lot of the opportunities out there, you need to create financial clutter. So if you want to take advantage of an HSA, you need to create an HSA account. That is one more thing that you have that you need to log into. If you've worked for multiple companies, you have all of these 401ks that you are participating in. And so in order to be good at this, you need to create the clutter. However, over time, you should be looking for opportunities to reduce that clutter, because the financial benefit is that it will be top of mind, it's easier to manage. And so one easy example is 401ks. If you've been jumping from company to company every few years, which many people have, then you might have 4 or 5 401ks available. Roll them all into one self-managed account. It makes it much easier. If you have a checking and a savings account, perhaps with 2 different banks, so maybe you have 4 different accounts, they all serve the same purpose. Roll them into one account. So there are things that you can do today to declutter your financial life as it relates to the accounts that you have.
Yeah, and you definitely can keep those accounts organized also. So when you were talking about kind of like creating an HSA and you have all these accounts, this is an area where when we were talking about decluttering versus organization, you may have more accounts because you're trying to take advantage of all of these different benefits and types of accounts that exist out there. But you actually can do a lot to keep them well organized, and to, having like a net worth tracking spreadsheet as an example, which we talk about on episode number...
I don't remember.
Okay. We don't remember, but you can look it up. Having those things all kind of neatly organized and in one place or in one spreadsheet can be very helpful, and can kind of, negate the issue of having a lot of them, and negate the need to declutter them, because you can keep them well organized. I think that's it for what we wanted to share on this episode, right, Mike?
Yeah. Should we go into our key takeaways?
Top 3 takeaways, yeah.
All right. First takeaway, just like your pursuit of financial independence, think about your why and what motivates you to declutter.
Number 2, prioritize spending some time decluttering right now. So remember that stuff does not create happiness, and it's actually the opposite. And set some goals, set an amount of time that you want to work on this, and think about ways you might even be able to make money while you're decluttering by selling some of your items. But prioritize decluttering, because now is a great time to do it, and you will see the benefits from it.
And number 3, be intentional about what you bring into your house that's new. And this will also help your spending, because you'll be buying less things.
Awesome. Okay, should we do a Mike's Minute on the Mic?
Sure.
Remember, this is where I ask Mike a question, and he has 60 seconds to answer it. So Mike, today's question, we're going to keep it on topic. One day I came over and did kind of a minimalism audit of your house that you asked me to do.
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn from that experience, and or just, your commentary on how that went?
The most impactful thing, well, let me first say, it was such a pleasure to have you walk around and give your advice. It was really quite eye-opening and impactful, because, as we've talked about, I already do a pretty good job at this, but some of the advice you gave was new to me. And one of the things that you said was in relation to storage we had in the rooms already. So we had closets and we had dressers and we had bookshelves, and they were all partially filled. And your advice was, why don't you consolidate all of your stuff into a closet, because clearly you have the room, and get rid of the dresser, get rid of the bookcase, and then all of a sudden you have a much more minimalist room. And I did that in a number of rooms, and the house looks amazing.
Yeah, I love clean, uncluttered spaces. So you can even put a dresser inside the closet, like keep the dresser and just stick it in the closet. Okay, cool. I wasn't just fishing for a compliment there. I really wanted to know what your experience was like. So,
well, you got one.
Customer, good to hear.
All right, well, this was a fun episode. I know you enjoyed it, Maggie.
This is like my idea of a good time on a Saturday night.
I know. Perfect. All right, so let's wrap up. If you have any questions or comments, please give us a call or text us at 404-981-3370. We'd love to hear from you, and we will play it on the air.
You can also follow us on Instagram or Facebook, and you can find either of those social channels at our website on friendsonfire.org.
And please, please, please leave us a review on iTunes or whatever tool you listen to this podcast on. It really helps other people find our show.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate
Thanks, Maggie.
You chatting, decluttering with me on a Saturday night.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yep. See you later. Thanks.
All right. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.